If you like today's video, please hit that subscribe button and check out more of our amazing content here at Yesterday's Entertainment Tomorrow.
Oh, we're live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Yesterday's Entertainment Tomorrow podcast. My name is Ryan McClelland, and joined by always my co-host, New York Nick Guzman. Hello. How you doing, Nick? And somewhere in the background here, we have Christian, who's the guy behind the guy, and Ming Chen as well. Hopefully Ming will pop in. We're doing this via a shared universe. So for all your podcast needs, should you want to stream, learn how to podcast, go in for a podcast, just go to shareduniverse.com, and Ming and Mike Zapsik will be able to take care of you. Today we are talking about what happened. We've lined up a couple of great guests to talk about this wonderful film. I'm going to start with the man. He is a writer-director in his own right who wrote and directed A Better Place for Askew Productions. On this film, he was also the editor, the first AD, and he played the cigarette fairy in the film. Ladies and gentlemen, Vincent Periera.
Hello.
Hello. Secondly, he is, I'd say, a modern day Tom Hanks. He is a wonderful actor who's been in many films, including one of my favorite films, guilty pleasure movie, which is Mancation, in which he got paid to make out with Danica McKellar. What a horrible, horrible job that is. And he plays Charlie Osgood in Big Helium Dog. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Koffinsky. Did I butcher that?
Uh-oh.
Okay, and then finally, the man. There we go. The man behind this entire thing. He is a huge Hollywood writer who's written some of the best animated movies of all time, including Hop, Minions, and my absolute favorite, Secret Life of Pets, both 1 and 2. The man who directed Big Helium Dog, Brian Lynch.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. What I wanted to start off with, for those, because this is not a film that's easy to see. As a matter of fact, most people who want to see it will never be able to see it because at this point it's not released. But if you had to, each of you, kind of say your own little log line of what this film is about, what is Big Helium Dog?
You guys go first.
It's about an idiot. That's really it, and it's very Kentucky Fried Movie-esque. It's lots of sketches and just random comedy, and it's pretty fucking hilarious, if you ask me. What do you think, Matt?
Oh, we still can't hear Matt.
Oh,
Matt, are you plugged in?
How about now?
Yeah.
Hey, great.
Matt, are you in character?
Sorry, I was just playing video games. What are you guys doing? Big Helium Dog, it's a loosely linked sketch comedy movie. I play the character sort of within the movie, but it's a movie within a movie. A ton of talented people all playing like parts that are sort of loosely linked to one another. It's a loosely linked sketch comedy movie.
Yeah.
Well,
you better, Brad.
No. It's a movie with a loose narrative about an idiot who has to kind of rise up and save the world, and the movie jumps in and out of the story to go behind the scenes of the making of it during the movie.
Yeah.
So its structure was borrowed from. I mean, definitely, Kentucky Fried Movie was a big one, but it was borrowed from Sesame Street. In that it has the thin line of a narrative, but then it jumps out. But instead of teaching you about a letter, it teaches you about terrible things.
Yeah, terrible things.
This movie came at a great time because it came at a time where, thanks to the Kevin Smith, you had 4 movies basically that came out, 4 very different films, Drawing Flies, A Better Place, Vulgar, and Big Helium Dog. How does that come together from coming from an idea that you have to actually pitching this to Kevin and getting Big Helium Dog made?
Big Helium Dog was originally a movie I wrote in college. It was 45 pages, which isn't obviously it's a page a minute when you write a script, so it wasn't a full feature. But we shot it on VHS. Vin, you weren't in that one, right, Vin?
No, but I remember seeing parts of it.
Right, I played Charlie in it. I was much better, and no, I was terrible. And I always liked that story, the little story of this kind of dope No offense to Matt, rising up and proving himself. All the stuff where he jumped out of the movie wasn't in there in the original version. I started writing it for fun. I liked it. I gave it to Vin first and Brian Strang, who worked on Vin's movie with me, and you guys liked it, and then we gave it to Kevin, right?
Well, Ben Affleck read it and loved it, and he was telling Kevin, "Oh my God, this is brilliant! You got to produce this. This is so funny." Like Ben was
Kevin had read it way before Ben, though.
He had read it before Ben?
Yeah, and then Kevin was like, "Well, when we get to do another one of those, I want to do it." But Ben read it in between that and was kind of like, "Kevin, this is really good." Like Ben helped
really push it.
Get Kevin excited about it for sure, more excited. And I didn't even mean for Ben to read it. Ben, back me. I did not. I think it just happened to be on the set because you were the craft services guy, and it was kind of laying there. And I think you just picked it up and read it. Like it wasn't like, Ben, read my screenplay. No, I'd never do that. First of all, I think I'd probably be asked to leave if I did do that. But I remember the very first day of filming Chasing Amy, I didn't know Ben, and he came up to me and he said, "Do you know where there's a McDonald's nearby?" And I said, "Yeah." And he took me. And he goes, "Will you go with me and show me?" And he took me and he ate with me. And I didn't eat. I was too nervous. I didn't know if I was allowed. But he's like, "What are you doing on this movie?" And I told him, and we got to talk about Big Helium Dog. So when he saw the script, he remembered what it was, and he asked if he could take it. But it was a weird, really cool series of events. And there was at one point where Kevin said maybe we should turn it into an HBO sketch comedy show. That was really fun. We cut it all up. And then we added some sketches that Kevin wrote. Do you remember that, Ben?
Yeah, there was the sketch. It was an Alanis Morissette sketch was the one that I remember. Where it was a game show and it was like, what does ironic mean? And she kept saying the lyrics from her song.
That was one that Matt.
Pyramid?
What happened?
Was it the $100,000 pyramid thing?
That was the one that I wrote for you and Nick. But he also wrote do you remember the cereal one, Ben, where it was like a support group for cereal mascots who were addicted to their cereal.
Yeah.
It was great. and then I had written another movie called Miller Minogue, and the plan was that if Big Helium Dog went as a TV show on HBO, the second season would be Miller Minogue, but with Martin Huber being the connecting thing.
Yeah.
But then Kevin said, "Look, we can do it as a TV show, or we could do it really cheap as a movie," and that's what I wanted to do originally. So we went with it.
I find it fascinating. Number one, we just learned that you were doing the craft service and Chasing Amy, and instead of eating your food, Ben Affleck wanted McDonald's.
Yeah, well, I wasn't the caterer though. I was just the guy that's like, "Here's some M&Ms, mister." I didn't do the meals, and I guess Ben didn't like the meal, or Ben was late to the meal, and he wanted to get food. Yeah, that is a little weird though. But the good thing about being craft service was that's kind of where people go to relax. So I got to hang out with everybody at their happiest. So it was
while they're
nice.
eating M&Ms, of course.
Yeah, because they got M&Ms. It was that was a wonderful experience, and that's one that I'd love to turn into a book or a comic book. I had such a wonderful time on that.
Crafting.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing, and I wound up dating the caterer.
Yeah,
for a year, 2 years.
Vin, I guess you were in on this pretty early, correct? I mean, obviously, if there's all of these layers to this, and I guess Matt as well. I mean, Big Helium Dog, it seems, is not the final product. There was many steps along the way. But Vin, how early were you in on this for Big Helium Dog, knowing that you and Brian have known each other since Nam?
Well, I read the screenplay very early, and I'd been in a lot of Brian's the college movies he did on VHS and even the high school ones. So
with the exact same tone as Big Helium Dog.
Yeah. There was that one that we did where we cut it to Comfortably Numb, and it was like I was playing basically I was playing the man from another place.
Yeah, from
Twin Peaks.
It was a movie called They Came From Your Anus Too.
Yes. There's a whole series. There was like an epic series of They Came from Your Anus.
There were 2 Uranus movies with a third written but never shot.
We got to rectify that.
Yeah. Imagine if I just call everyone from college back, going like, "Do you want to be in my movie?" And they're like, "What? Is it Minions?" I'm like, no.
Came from Your Anus 3.
You Came From Your Anus 3, full of jokes that were funny in '94.
Yeah. Well, I still think of that stuff, and some of that stuff still makes me laugh, Brian. I think of scenes from those, like you, and they came from Uranus, where you answer the door, and the guy's like, why'd you have me come to your house? And you're like, please, sir, I'm just investigating a homicide. I'm not going to get out of bed for it.
That's right. Yeah, I was the detective, and I didn't think it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Matt, so you mean you've also been involved with Brian for a while. What did you think of the script when you read it? And did you, how did you become cast in as the lead, as Charlie Osgood?
Right. So I was going to college at Montclair State, and I had joined an improv troupe. And so we were performing like at our school, and we started doing shows like outside of our own campus. And we were getting ready to perform at UMass for this whole like sort of improv weekend. And guys, the bread
is the bread done? Right. Craft service, man. Yeah. The caterer.
Oh my God, it's just going to keep going, you guys.
That's what happens with machines, man. You can go.
It's not
Matt has Skynet as the freaking bread maker.
Oh my God. It's not even my wife is just like pressing buttons. In
the background, if you pan the camera just slightly, she's there just pressing
what? So we were getting ready to go perform for this weekend, and we were jumping into cars, and after we finished this show, and then we were jumping into cars to get on the road to drive to UMass, and Lynch was there, and Brian's like, hey, you're funny. I was like, yeah, whatever, thanks, I know. And he goes, you should ride with us. And in the car, he was going with Lorene, who's one of the stars of the movie. And I was weirded out. I was like, why? Who are you? And he's like, you're riding with us. And I'm like, fine.
Well, can I explain why, though? It sounds like I'm a creep.
Because you had candy.
My
car. Yeah, you had M&Ms.
No, what had happened was I went to see Lorene and everyone else in the group perform like 2 weeks earlier. And it was an improv show, and you guys are great. Everyone in that group is great. But you did this thing where you would get up and say things that had happened that day in history.
Yeah.
And everybody kept waiting for the joke when you did it, and you just read it stone serious. And everyone was like laughing, and you were like, I don't see what's so funny about that. And it made me laugh so hard that you did it so straight in this wacky group of people. I'm like, oh, that guy's really funny. So then I broke up with the caterer from Chasing Amy on a Friday. She broke up with me. I'm trying to sound cool. She broke up with me. And Lorene was really like my best friend at that point. No offense, Vin, but you know what I mean. She was. I hung out with. No, you know what I mean. I hung out with Lorene a lot. And she's like, well, I'm going to UMass for an improv convocation to fight cancer.
I think so. Yeah.
And she's like, come with me. I'm like, that sounds like hell. And she's like, no, it'll be fun. And I'm like, okay. So I went, and if someone else wasn't picked, I would be in the car with a bunch of improv performers that I didn't know. So I'm like, I'm going to go with the stone face guy. He's really funny. And you were fun. Like I had such a good time with you for that whole ride. All three of us were like, it was great.
Well, you handed me very quickly, you handed me the script. I mean, I guess it was a long ride, but you're like, hey, I have this thing. And he was holding Big Helium Dog in a binder. He's like, do me a favor and like read some of this. So he hands it to me, and I'm just like, now? Like, you want to read now? You want to just read? Like, while we drive? It's like, yeah, just check it out. So I didn't know anything. Like, I had literally never seen a Kevin Smith movie. Like, I didn't.
What?
Yeah. And so he's starting to tell me that
Matt's feed just goes dead right now.
Brian starts telling me that he's like,
finally found the right button to press. There he goes.
And so I start reading it, and I mean, it's hysterical. Like I don't know where I get it from. Like, my dad's British, so maybe that, like, but my parents don't love the same sort of humor that I do. But the whole script was very deadpan, and it like spoke to was my heartbeat, and I understood every bit of it. And I was like, this is great. This is brilliant. This is how comedy should be. And so, yeah, I mean, I loved it. I was laughing I remember laughing a lot, and every time I would laugh, you would turn around the back seat and be like, what? I'm like, you want
to nobody knew had read it in so long. Like it was Vin, Kevin,
it was all
and Maureen, right? Yeah. Right, Vin? Like you guys.
Yeah.
Were the only
So
ones
it was
that
like it was people who were kind of on the inside. So having, I guess, him come in completely cold and read it, and Matt was perfect. I can't remember the first time I saw him, but when I saw him doing lines as Charlie, I was like, oh God, yes, that's absolutely the tone. That is Charlie Osgood.
He got it. Like to sell it as a don't overplay it. Like don't sell it as a joke.
Yeah.
The straighter it is, the funnier.
Yeah, this guy doesn't realize he's an idiot. He's just.
Do you remember when we did? Kevin wanted all of us to do it at his apartment, like with all of us just reading parts, and Michael Ian Black showed up to do it.
Oh
and that's when I asked Matt if he would come and do all the parts that weren't the leads.
Like
yeah. And it was you and I were looking at each other like every time Matt was on, we're like, oh God, this guy's taking lines that weren't funny and making them funny. And that's where we started talking seriously about maybe he's the lead. And Kevin at that point was like, Lynch, you should do it. And I was like, no, God, I can't direct. And there's a nude scene, and I'm never going to do that. But Kevin kept going. Years from now, you're going to want you in it to watch. You're going to want you in it to see yourself. And I wouldn't do it.
You did the cameo, though.
Which you did, yeah.
The day he was filming, the day he filmed his part, he's like, you're next to me in this. And I'm like, I don't want to be. He's like, you're going to want to be years from now. And I didn't. Yeah, that's why I'm there. If you look in the scene too, I'm like annoyed to be there. Like I keep going, stop talking to me. I don't. That's where it's from. Is the fact that I was like, I have nothing to do here. Like I want to go direct.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I'm really glad I'm in it. He was right.
Yeah, that scene always cracks me up. Just Kevin's reaction when Kim and the boy walk over and they're like, "Excuse me," and he jumps. He's like terrified. He goes, "That contagious?" Points to the boy.
Kevin's amazing. Kevin's he's great. Everyone knows he's a funny guy, but he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Him running through the cows at the very, very end is just like him screaming. It's hilarious. Like
I would say that morning it was when he filmed all his stuff with Michael Ian Black, and that morning was just like I had bought a ticket and was watching two really funny people perform for me. It was crazy, and it got to the point. Remember, we were just throwing out movie titles,
and they would just do it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just very lucky.
You're reminding me of some of the lines. Kevin goes, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Michael Ian Black goes, I just want you to stop and think about what you said for just a moment, and you tell me what the movie's about. And then he says what kills it. He goes, I don't know if you're retarded or just willful. It's like that killed it. And Kevin starts to laugh at that point. And we cut to Black right after Michael said the line.
Laughing at the cut.
I don't quote my own movie. I don't in life, except for that line. If I want you to say it again and you tell me what it's about, it's like I can quote it, not be egotistical. So Michael Ian Black came up with that line, but like, oh my God, yeah.
The way he said it, yeah.
And by the way, Michael Black back me up, guys. He was there for a day and a half.
Yeah. And we had to move. We actually had to move the scene because it started to rain. Everything was going to be in the cow field, and it was like, oh shit! It was like, well, the two scenes we have to film are the intros to, the Gen X version. So it's like, we can just go to the coffee shop, and we just did that on the fly. We went to the coffee shop and shot those two scenes.
We should explain too what Michael Ian Black's role is, if people haven't seen it. He's kind of the host of the movie. He's not the narrator really, but he pulls the audience in and out of the movie and explains why certain things happen.
Yeah.
And by the way, when it was written, Martin Huber was supposed to be in a different location every time you saw him. I remember it started in the cow field, and then the next time you saw him was in a high school gymnasium with with like a volleyball team playing in the background, and it got weirder and weirder, and finally he was in the middle of a kid's birthday party just standing there, and it was really funny, and then. It was probably you were like, you're not going to be able to film all this. Like just pick what you think visually is the funniest one. And then, or the one we can, because a kid's volleyball game is funny for one. And then it gets annoying. We're like, oh, the cow field is weird. Let's never explain why the guy in a suit is standing in a cow field.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a Martin Huber movie, which we can talk about later if you want. And we explain why he's in a cow field in it. Like it kind of parodies how like movies, like prequels over explain things you didn't.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I remember, Brian, like kind of going to what you just said, I remember breaking down the script because, you have to write scene numbers. Like there were no scene numbers. It was just, so I was like, okay, well, to break, for the purposes of, writing up call sheets, you need scene numbers. And I remember doing, it was like scene 1, scene 2, scene 2A, scene 2C, then back to scene 1, then back to scene 2. It was crazy. And I had been sitting there for a couple hours. I think Kim was helping me, Kim Lochran. And I remember calling you and I'm like, Brian, this screenplay, I'm like, you have no idea how difficult it is trying to break it down into numbers, because it keeps jumping all over the place.
Yeah, you were like, I give it one number if it's in the movie and one number if it's out of the movie, but then some scenes start in the movie, but by the end they're out of the movie. He's like, I don't know. You're like, I don't know what to number them.
Yeah.
But you were kind of, which made me so happy, and I'm like, you were saying it with joy, like how weird it was that we were doing this.
It was so it was very interesting, but it was trying to break down that script was a challenge.
Because you have that thing where it's like Steve Lemmy comes in at the very end and he's like, oh no, it's Kendrick. And then you have Michael Black kind of cut in and be like, oh, there was a bunch of scenes, but we cut that out, and now back to Matt and Lauren.
Yeah.
And
but we just randomly left that scene in at the end. Not like you couldn't have just cut that scene as well, but And of course, he also walks up at the end of my scene the first time you see him.
He does.
The bowling alley.
And he's in the strip club too in the background.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't see him there.
Yeah, he's just, if you notice, because his character hates Charlie. If you watch the strip club scene again, he's just staring at Charlie the whole time and not like mad at him.
That. Yeah.
Should we explain jokes if people don't know what we're talking about? Is that
absolutely explain away?
Throughout the movie, you just see this guy with a weird lisp and a bloody bandage on his forehead. Dressed like a Minuteman, kind of.
Yeah.
And he's got a musket, and he tries all throughout the movie. He gets closer and closer to making an impact on the movie. Like you see him in the background, then he comes up to Charlie and starts talking to him, but always cuts before anything happens. And then at the end, he finally comes out, and Martin Huber, Michael Ian Black, explains that originally the movie was 6 hours long, and we had to cut things, including all of Kendrick's storyline.
Yeah, except for the final scene. There's so much plot in that final scene. And how did you survive the fire at the Mercantile? The same way. All the factory explosion. It's like all this crazy shit.
I remember doing the scene with Vin and Bri. I think we ran it a few times, and I cracked every time, because there's a scene where Vin and I. It was your first scene, right?
Yeah.
And you leave, and I turn around, and
he's there, and he's
just standing there,
and he calls you a slut
at me. Going away. And he leaves this like long pregnant pause, and he kept changing his line. Like every time he said something, like every time we yelled, actually, he would change his line. And like I think like the one that made it was like, Charlie, you slut.
Have you ever seen What Happens to a Man? And then it cuts.
I laughed every time, and I think finally you were just like, all right, I think we'll cut it. We got it. And I'm like, no, I think I just laughed every time. You're like, we'll cut. And I think in the final cut, you see me about to break.
You're
like,
I'm
about to break.
For sure. It was great. Lemmy came to play, man. He was. I don't think he enjoyed making the movie so much. Like I've talked to him since then, and we get along great. But I don't think he liked it. But when he was on screen, he's funny, man. Obviously everyone knows how funny he can be, but like that character he created was like fully formed, man. What a weird character. He's great. The dude's great.
And it's interesting how those guys got involved with the film. Was that at the Askew offices, I think it was before it even played at the film festivals, or it might have played at film festivals, but they had sent a VHS copy of Puddle Cruiser. And it was just like, oh, what's this crazy film? Like Kevin would get movies there all the time. And I took it home and watched it. And I was like, this is really funny. And I gave it to Brian. I'm like, dude, you got to watch this. This is really funny. And you liked it. And then we got the idea of bringing Rich in as the producer of the film, Rich Perillo, because he produced Puddle Cruiser. And at the time, they were trying to get Super Troopers off the ground.
And he got those guys to come in and audition. A couple of them. Some of them didn't want to do it. But the day where they read every open part just to see who they were going to play.
Yeah.
And I was in pain by the end of that audition. Like it wasn't even an audition because we wanted them in the movie, but like they were funny in every part. Every part. And they didn't know us. They're like, what are we doing? All right, we'll do this. It was I think Ben, were you there for it?
I'm not sure if I was there for that.
I remember Lorene read against them.
Yeah.
Man, I think it was Eric Stolhansky. No, it was Jay Lemmy and Kevin, because Stolhansky wasn't a part of it yet. And then Kevin Heffernan was going to play the priest in the movie that tells Charlie the actions of the movie are going to send him to hell. And then when our devil dropped out, and we couldn't recast the devil, we're like, what about Heffernan? He's hilarious. So we asked Heffernan to be the devil, and then Stolhansky came in and filled his part.
Who originally was going to play the devil?
It was going to be Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
And then Armageddon, he had to choose between the two. I think he made the right choice.
No way.
And we talked to Craig Kilborn.
Oh wow.
That's right.
I forget who Andy Richter we talked to. It was everybody wanted to do it, and everybody didn't want to come to film like all those days. Like it was just a big enough part that it was a pretty like long time they were going to be there. But then Kevin Heffernan was like, "Oh, I want to do this," and he slept in my basement, and he did it, and he had a great time. He had among the most fun on the set when he was there.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. And I remember editing that scene when he laughs. And layering the laughs, which it wasn't written that way, but we had all these laugh tracks. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep layering the laughs. And when we played it back, it was, you loved it, and then we kept it in the film. And then you also added, like, you made like some horrific,
echoes,
like really evil ones.
It's the first hint of the fact that no one knows he's the devil. It's the first, for anyone that hasn't watched it, which is I think everyone but us five. It's the first hint this character is a devil when he laughs. His laugh starts overlapping and going like real evil, and you see Charlie reacting to. Originally, he was reacting just to an over laugh, and then Vin made it a satanic laugh, and we're like, okay, that's it. That's what we're going with. It was great. It was really fun.
I want to talk about, I guess, let's say, because again, Brian, like you said, a lot of people haven't seen this movie, but I want to kind of talk about favorite scenes and kind of. Bring it out a little bit. So kind of tell about your favorite scenes and kind of expand on what's going on in that scene for all of those View Askew fans out there who have no clue what we're talking about.
Do you guys want to go first? Because I got to think about it. I'm
going to start with Nick, only because Nick, you've been talking too damn much during this whole thing. So I'd love to hear what you're enjoying the conversation. But what was your favorite scene of the movie, Nick? Like, what was something that stood out for you that you were like laughing at?
When they did the role reversal part, he was talking about the injuries. It was like some physical. I was dying watching that.
He was a big man.
Yeah.
If you want me to explain it, it's Martin Huber, the narrator, the host, comes out and explains that the filmmakers forgot which character was supposed to play which part. So Matt's character is suddenly playing a stripper, and a stripper from an earlier scene is playing Matt.
Right. And a stripper with a very heavy accent, too.
Right.
And I think my favorite moment of that scene is just the random cutaway to your friend saying, he doesn't even return my calls. The big man, that was it. Like, random cutaway to him saying that.
Ben, you can vouch for it. That's one of the best things about like making a movie this small is that's one of our friends from college. That's Chris. Yeah. Who was funny in the movies we shot on the big chunky VHS camera movies, and they came from Uranus and stuff like that. And now he's in that movie because of that.
And he works perfectly in that role too.
He's great. Matt.
And there was an additional. Actually, there is. Yeah, he has a final scene with me. I come and because I get demoted from being the cigarette fairy, and I guess I'm the vibrator fairy. And I show up at the door, and he answers the door to get his vibrator fixed.
Thank God. Is that a dig toward Dragnet?
No, I don't think so. In what way?
Just when Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd pull up to the Playboy Mansion, whatever it is, and they press the button, and it's like vibrator repair, and I was like, I wonder if he got it from that.
From now on, I'm gonna claim I did. But I didn't. No, that's great. No, I love that movie. Maybe subconsciously. I don't know.
Yeah, that happened with me with A Better Place. Like I subconsciously ripped
the vibrator repair scene.
Yeah, no. The final thing of the film when he goes no bullets, which I was always so proud of. And then like a year after I made The Better Place, I was watching the Criterion Laserdisc of Taxi Driver, listening to Martin Scorsese's commentary, and at the end, De Niro runs out of bullets. And he doesn't say it, but in Scorsese's commentary, he's like, "Oh, and yeah, no bullets." He ran out of bullets, and I'm like, "God damn it! I ripped off Scorsese, and I didn't even realize it. It was so funny."
You were ripping off, but you're ripping off the world's greatest filmmaker, and I'm ripping off Dragnet.
Subconsciously. Well, I mean, Tom Hanks.
There is another Dan Aykroyd reference in it, though, and there's a Ghostbusters 2 reference when the two grips clink their tripods like the Ghostbusters do with their big slime guns. Yeah,
they're so proud about triple teaming Chastity.
I'm so proud. What a wonderful film I made.
Oh, it's fun. It's so much fun.
Matt, what's your favorite scene in the film?
So I can't say the same one. I can't use when I wore a feather boa and a little feather G-string. I guess I really dug shooting what was, I guess, one of the last scenes. We were lakeside.
The lakeside scene.
Doing this is the stupid way to end the movie. Yeah. And I get hit with a bottle in the head, and you hear tires
screeching off. Yeah, she goes, "It's an ending. Be thankful." And he just gets hit, but get hit with the bottle, and that's it.
Which is a ripoff of The Simpsons. It's Mom, is this a happy ending or a sad ending? It's an ending. Let's be grateful for that.
I just remember in that moment feeling like, I guess I felt it a lot, but it was in that moment that I felt like, oh, I'm just sort of hanging out with friends, making a movie with friends, because it was like Lorene's to my side and somebody's throwing this
a bottle at you.
Yeah. Were you throwing it? Who threw it?
No, Kevin Crimmins threw it.
Crimmins, that's right.
Crimmins was the skinnier grip, the littler grip. He also did. Did he do prop? Did he help with props?
Yeah, he did. He did art direction, and he edited the scene.
That's right.
Right. And I remember he. We can go on, Brian.
No, go.
No, but I remember it was kind of funny, because you and I cut the film, most of it, and then I remember coming in one day, and Kevin was like, "Hey, I tried out editing. I was watching you guys, and I edited the scene. It was Daddy, Why Am I a Faggot?" It was that scene, and he edited it, and I remember looking at it, and I was like, "Damn, yeah, I'm not going to touch it." The editing was, the way he cut in and out of coverage was really, really beautiful, and I was very impressed. I'm like, "Yeah, man, cool." So he has a scene that he edited in the film.
You have to explain that too. That's another thing you have to explain.
The editing?
No, that's
when you
scene.
take a movie and you cut it.
Because there's certain parts in this movie that just break off from the movie itself, and it's not the documentary like the Martin Huber character. It's just these little
random
vignettes.
scenes, the blatantly offensive scenes.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the things I'd like to go back and work on, and it's too late, I think. But originally in the movie, those offensive scenes were part of a bigger sketch in the movie.
Yeah.
And it was at one point, it's when Chastity says, "Why aren't you listening to me?" And Matt said, "How can you have anything important to say? You're a girl." And they go, "Oh, that's right. Sometimes I forget." And they laugh. And then it cuts, and Martin Huber originally said, "We get that some people might have a problem with that joke. It's kind of offensive. But just so you know, the producer has also made other movies that aren't as offensive." So here's a clip from a recent talk show he was on, and it cut into a talk show, and it was Jay Chandrasekhar was the producer, and he would explain each sketch, and each sketch got increasingly more offensive.
Yeah, there were TV movies that he produced.
Yeah, it's his TV movies, and it was funnier in context, and the actors were great. Scott is great. Mark Safranco is awesome. Matt Donnelly is really funny in it, but the talk show part didn't work. The set direction didn't work. The acting was a little weird. It just didn't work, and it was a long way to be away from Charlie and Chastity, especially towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So we said, well, those scenes work though. Is it funny if we just cut into blatantly offensive and say these are blatantly offensive? And they worked for us in the room. You know what I mean? It's funny because it's the scene, the people are funny. But now removed from the setup, it just feels like we're being just offensive for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And I would love to go back and try to work the talk show part into an earlier part of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what it. And one of the movies was supposed to be an after-school special about this kid who comes to his dad with a problem, and the dad in the after-school special usually be about the dad. In any other show would be about the dad helping the kid comes to terms with it and accepting yourself, or the dad having to accept it, coming to terms with it. But in ours, the dad had a problem with it, and it was the right one. That's the joke. Is that's why it was offensive.
Yeah.
But without that setup, it feels to me just like a bunch of can you believe we're saying this? Like, and it's just like, I don't know.
There was also like that sequence, the one with the boy coming out of the closet. It when it cuts back to the talk show, I remember the one talk show host. It was a guy and a girl, and the guy was part of Broken Lizard. I can't remember his name. Yeah, but yeah, he's crying, and he's like, "What happens next?" And Ed Stabio goes, "The father takes him to a doctor who cures him." See, a happy ending.
Yep. You know, it was a smarter joke, and now it's a I don't even know what it is. It's
well, they're blatantly offensive scenes, you know.
Yeah,
and you put the animation in, you know.
Animation is cool. It looks cool.
Yeah. You have a Flickty in there.
Yeah, my dog is growling at me. You guys talk about me for 1 second.
Growling dog.
Is it phone off the hook? Oh no, he has a phone from like the 40s.
Yeah, that's
Lynch.
Awesome.
What do I have?
A phone from the 40s back there.
I do. That's if people can't get in the house, they ring the bell and they can call me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So what about you, Vin? What's your favorite scene? What's your favorite scene from this film?
Aside from my own, which I love, which was fun to do as well, I really like the what do you call it, the moment of closure at the end. It's the scene with Matt and Lorene and their burning artifacts.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I forgot about that.
yeah, they're burning. It's like he's burning Ray's sweater, and at the end of it, he picks up this big ass cat.
Yeah.
And finally, this is Ray's cat, Fluffy. God, did he love Fluffy? And he threw Fluffy in the fire, and you just hear Ray. Yeah,
that was from when we saw Clueless at Middletown Movies, and they do that scene where they're burning all the stuff from the relationship to help get over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I saw it with you, Vin. I probably did because it was a movie and we saw every movie together. But I while we were watching it, I turned to you or whoever I was with and said, "Oh, I hope she throws something in that's just so bizarre." And they didn't do it, and I put it in the back of my head, like, we can do that. We can do that. So we have it. It starts with like a funeral pyre, and then it's stuff. Charlie starts burning stuff that he shouldn't, like a living animal. Like,
yeah. And the cat was so funny. It was just a big ass cat too. It wasn't even a small cat. It was the biggest cat you could find.
And the cat does a look into the camera before he gets
thrown.
Yeah. I remember that being all like so very technical, like try to hold it up this high, see if you can get a straight on look, and like make sure you drop. There was someone below, like with a blanket. But then,
catching the cat.
All of that aside, there was actual like a tiny little fire with smoke coming up.
Yeah,
it was your parents' cat, right? Like, I just remember being so nervous, like, don't drop, because I was told like 12 times by everybody, like, do not drop the cat on the fire. I'm like, yeah, I won't drop the cat on the fire.
You didn't.
But how many cats did I drop on the fire?
4.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
No, considering we had 8, it was a 50%. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
Work with those odds.
What about you, Lynch? What do you when you watch this movie? What do you still find? I don't know, how many times have you watched your own film since you've finished, and what do you love most? What scene?
I have not seen it. I heard it's great. No, I hadn't watched it for a while, and I watched it again last year for the first time. And I still maintain. We can talk about this later. I maintain that it is the best acted independent comedy that I've seen. Like, yeah. I think Matt, Mike, Lorene, Heffernan, Kevin Smith, like even the small. I mean, Michael Ian Black. The smaller parts are Vin, Brian Quinn. Like, everybody came to play, and it shows. Yeah. It shows.
Yeah, I love the introduction to Vance,
Vance is great.
And I edited that scene, and I remember I loved, I don't know, like, not to toot my own horn, but I really was proud of my editing in that scene, because we were going to reversals and back and forth and cutting in the close-ups. Like, that was a fun scene to edit.
Let's talk about that scene in a sec, but it's yes, it's great. I love it. My favorite scenes are the ones that are there's a real stupid joy to the movie when it goes right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like everybody, even when we're saying things that we shouldn't, it's a happy movie. And for me, the part that that gets that feeling the most is when Charlie visits his grandparents.
Oh yeah.
And he finds out that the grandma has hooked up the grandpa's pacemaker to a clapper, so if she gets mad at him, she can kill him.
Yeah.
And the grandpa has hooked up a clapper to her bladder.
Yeah.
Hopefully you just go with it. That is my favorite, and when the movie suddenly stops halfway through, and Michael Ian Black said, "This movie isn't working. Let's go to a Gen X version."
Oh yeah.
And the movie relaunches, and we go to a parody of like Clerks and Brothers McMullen and like and all the those kind of movies, and it's among the first stuff we shot, and it's just funny, and it's everybody in it's great. And then the one other thing is Heffernan and Matt at the Hair Club for Men.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a joke that on paper now, if you explained it, you're like, what? Like, what do you do? Why are you doing this? Yeah. The devil recruits. Well, first of all, you don't even know he's the devil, but this stranger recruits Charlie to host an infomercial for some reason. And then he says it's going to be a hair club for men, a psychic hair club for men.
Psychic powers.
I don't smoke pot, guys. And then he halfway through the infomercial he reveals it's not for that. He's using Charlie for some reason. We still don't know why he decided to use Charlie for this. He's actually the devil, and he's using it to promote Satanism to teenagers.
Yeah.
And it's so dumb. And at the same time, it's told with such joy from Heffernan and confusion from Matt. And he says, I even have a teen heartthrob I want to bring out. And he says, here comes Joey Lawrence. And it's a very large, bald black man. Who's clearly not Joey Lawrence, but is doing. And I swear I'm not going like, aren't I funny? It is just so weird. And I love jokes that would never happen if they weren't from the person that created them.
Yeah.
That is one that I don't know why I came up with it, and I'm pretty sure that no one else would have either.
I love the explosion of smoke and light. And then he steps forward, he's like, "This is my true form. Am I not hideous?" And Charlie's just looking at him, he goes, "I'm almost an inch taller." He goes, Oh, horrifying.
And then he complains about the backlight, the devil. Like,
I'm getting moist.
Yeah.
I think we shot, am I right, guys? We shot for 17 days. For
3 weeks, because the last couple of days I wasn't there because I had to go to the film festival with a better place. I don't think I was there for the filming of that scene. That's one of the scenes I don't remember being on set for, and I don't think I was on set for the scene with the cat. I remember I wasn't there that day. So
that was one of the last things we shot too.
Yeah, that was towards the end.
I can't stress it enough. It really, the whole movie felt like hey guys, let's put on a show. And even to the point of where Michael Ian Black, among his first lines, had to clear his throat and he coughs. And we're like, let's use the take where he's coughing because we want to stumble out of this gate. To really show people that we just made this movie for like. And I remember I showed it to Michael Ian Black in Michael Ian Black's brother's living room. And he looked at me and he had it was joyous, and it made me happy. As he goes, "You used the take I messed up on," and I'm like, "Yeah, you'll see why. It fits the rest of the movie." He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I get." Like he was very happy I did that, but surprised. I don't know. It was a very specific moment in time with a lot of people that were I'm just really lucky to know you guys. And if we could make a movie, I'd be lucky to know you guys. But
it also going back to what you were talking about, like why the hell does the devil want to recruit Charlie? Well, during the scene when he goes to see the priest is like, I got this fax from Ray. And the devil gets real excited. He goes, "You mean cool ass paramedic Ray Cross?" He's like, "What? I'm a fan." So the reason he got Charlie is because he was a fan of cool ass paramedics.
Yeah, he said in the movie he taped all the episodes of Charlie's other show, and he said like there was one episode of it. But
there was only
also he does say he likes Charlie's face, and that's, I guess at the time we're like, all right, well that's it. But it's it's a very weird movie, and that's why I love it.
And I love the fact that that infomercial actually does lead the devil to becoming like a superstar with kids.
Yes, because there's two
Mom, is the
teenagers
devil
that happen to be
cool?
watching it.
No.
Yeah, while they're making out on the couch, and their mother's sitting right there. Mom, is the devil cool? He cut over to her with the curlers in.
He's like knitting.
It's just
She's knitting. Yeah, while Pete Capella is making out with the girl,
Yeah.
she's sitting next to them knitting.
It's a weird movie. It's a weird movie.
It really spoke on reality TV shows, though, even before it was a big thing. I mean, it's a big part of the movie is this reality TV show. I mean, those bad 90s commercials were definitely around, like Smokeless Ashtray, shit like that.
Right.
Like the Hair Club for Men Fits. But you look in 2000s and beyond, it really took that reality, like the cool-ass paramedics, the cool-ass homeless people, cool-ass cigarette fairy. But it's just making people celebrities for zero reason. And it really speaks into that.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny, too, is that there was a draft where Charlie had a love interest, and it was an ex-girlfriend that he still liked that was the star of a reality show, and you never understood what it was about. But every time he tried to have a moment with her, there were 8 cameras, like, in his face. And it was just one or two drafts of it. And I found out when I wrote it, it grounded the movie too much. Like, not this reality show thing. That's like, that was silly. But like the fact that Matt's character was into this girl who had a real interest in him, and she was rooting for him to do the right thing. It really suddenly became too real a movie. So I took that all out. But yeah, no, I always love reality. I still love reality TV. I watched Love Is Blind on Netflix, and if we were up to Big Helium Dog 8 at this point, I would do a parody of that somewhere in it for sure.
Well, you could still do what was it? Big Helium Dog goes.
Big Helium Dog 8. I mean, you've said that you've had sequels in mind. Like, what were those sequels about? What was it? Charlie in it? Was it Michael Black? Like, what happens in these sequels?
I didn't have sequels in mind. I wrote.
He wrote. Yeah.
Full. It was the second movie was called Big Helium Dog Beyond Thunderdome, and the conceit in the beginning of the movie was that the first movie came out and was bigger than Star Wars. And in fact, like, people were dressed as their favorite characters. People were getting married online to see the movie. People were giving birth online to see the movie. And so when people were riding high on it, they made a second sequel really quick called Big Helium Dog Goes Coconuts.
Yeah.
And it was basically a parody of The Legend of Curly's Gold of City Slickers 2. And Ray's twin brother,
Jay, I think.
No, it was whatever Michael's character was on a soap opera he played. I just used the same name.
Yeah.
And in Ray's cool ass paramedic jacket was a map to gold. and the plot of the movie was that Matt fell in love with a girl who was as dumb as he was, but she was super rich and her father wanted him gone. That was the bare bones idea. The joke that was really funny in the movie was that they kept referencing Big Helium Dog 2, which never really was made or released.
Yeah, it was released only in Europe.
In Europe, and it bombed.
Yeah. But you still reference
Chastity has a rubber arm, and you don't know why. Ray is just back. By the end, Michael Ian Black is annoyed to be back. Martin Huber's annoyed to be back, and he decides to end the movie. And he enters the movie to end the franchise, and he winds up getting fired, and somebody gets brought in to be the new Martin Huber, and he joins an improv group. It's a weird ending. So anyway, the other thing I remember is that while Michael Ian Black is talking, in one of the scenes you see like a red light on his chest, and it was supposed to be that if you see it in a movie theater, you're going to think some jerk has a red laser pointer. That was going on a lot at the time. And Michael Ian Black's talking and then stops and goes, "I'm sorry, there's some modern day comedic genius in the theater with a laser pointer, and I'd really like to stop. Can we get that guy?" And a PA comes over and goes, "Does anyone see it?" And suddenly the PA's head just explodes. And it's not a laser pointer, it's a sniper in the audience. And the two grips come out to return fire. It's a weird movie. We up the ante for sure, and I would have loved to have made it, but obviously you have to release the first one before you can make the second one.
That reminds me of Gremlins 2 when when they break the film.
I would imagine that moment in Gremlins 2 inspired a ton of Big Helium Dog 1 and 2. You know what I mean? I just love that moment. But the other movie I wrote. Also, I wrote a part 3. That's basically Bruce Almighty, where Charlie's girlfriend from the second one, they now live together. She's like, I invited my boss from work, and Matt's like, oh, that's great. I invited my old friend Phil, who is Kevin Heffernan, who is the devil. He winds up inviting the devil to dinner at the same time. She invites her boss from work, who is God.
Oh.
So it's the devil and God being real prissy to each other. And then it eventually winds up God gets annoyed, gives Charlie the power of God because he quits. He's like, I don't want to do it anymore. So then in the rest of the movies, Charlie just like calling ex-girlfriends and going, remember when you thought I wouldn't be anyone? That's what I've gotten at. Like, and it was Big Helium Dog 4 because Charlie in Charge was the name of it.
Charlie in Charge.
It was very weird. The other movie I wrote from Big Helium Dog was a movie called I'm Martin Huber, which still has some of the funniest stuff I think I've ever written. It's Martin Huber is trying to sell his life story by telling his life story at an AA meeting where he knows a producer goes. And he's not a drunk at all. He's just like, I want to tell my story. It's so sad, but he's trying to get his movie sold. You find out, and it's all about how he has Bob Saget has stolen his career at every moment of the movie, at every moment of his life, and Michael Ian Black read it and gave notes, and like I love it, and I remember giving it to my managers, and was like, we gave this to Will Ferrell's company. Would you want to rewrite it for Will Ferrell? And I'm like, no. And like, I'm doing this with Michael Ian Black, and it's obviously that didn't happen. But no, the thing about these movies, when I write movies too, I tend to want to keep going and seeing what the characters do next. And I've done that, I think, with every movie I've worked on. I write what happens next just to get it out of my system. And with Big Helium Dog 2, it was real easy because I know all the actors. I know how the voices are going to go. You know, Matt, Vin, Michael. Were all my closest friends. Lorene, when I wrote the sequel, was my girlfriend. That's probably one of the reasons why I didn't pursue making a second one, because eventually she wasn't, and that would have been awkward. But yeah, it was. I don't know. It was a weird. It was a fun time. We had a test screening too. Miramax held one for us. I remember that. Do you remember that, Ben?
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
That wasn't fun.
That wasn't fun.
You know what? Ben, you can back me up on this. Is the audience laughed the whole time?
Yeah, but then the cards didn't reflect.
Yeah, we didn't have any walkouts, which I've had a ton of test screenings. You always have at least like one or two. It was steady laughter, and then when they asked, and it was right outside of NYU, so we asked a lot of NYU students basically what's wrong with our movie, and they told us. Miramax said, look, we want to do something with this, but we want to completely trim the narrative, and maybe we'll get other people to write sketches and put them in. And it just felt weird to me. Like, it just felt like this odd little movie was becoming something else. That was a weird time. But that was a weird night, because Vin, didn't you walk out of that going, like, this is going to go well? Like, this went well.
It did seem like that. It's one of those weird moments. Like, it's almost like, have you ever watched the documentary about the making of 12 Monkeys?
No.
All right, there's a scene at the end of that where Terry Gilliam, there's a test screening of the film 12 Monkeys, and he sits through the screening, and he's like, wow, they really responded to it. The audience really got the film, like just watching the audience. And then he's looking at the cards, and the cards don't reflect the actual, what he saw while watching the movie. It's like, these cards don't make sense because I just sat there and that audience got the whole film,
It was a weird thing that the audience afterwards too, when they do that focus group, and they were like, I just got so frustrated that the lead was so dumb. Why was he so dumb? Like, I'm like, well, he's gonna be like, I don't know. Like, and I remember I felt this movie ripped off Monty Python, and they asked for more specific feedback on than that. And she's like, I don't know. I haven't seen Monty Python in a long time, but I feel like it did.
I feel it, yeah.
And it was just like, it was just a weird. But that said, like Scott Mosier drove me home, and I remember, and he's like, we were talking, and I felt good about that night. It was a weird thing. We even had so many people showed up to see it that people were sitting in the aisles.
Yeah.
And none of them left. Everybody was enjoying it. It was a weird thing. That was a weird thing. Sure.
Didn't you screen it for didn't John Landau watch it too?
John Landau and I watched it in James Cameron's private screening room.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a weird thing. There was one point, the first screenplay sale I ever made was called Fag Hag, and for Fox Searchlight, and I got $7,000 to do the rewrite. They're like, please don't take this to a lawyer. He will tell you that is illegal. And just if you want to do it, do it. And I did it, and they liked it, and I kept writing it, and they got to the point where they're like, maybe you could direct it. And they watched Big Helium Dog. I'm gonna bring my dog up now, by the way. She's bothering me. And they watched Big Helium Dog to see if I could direct, and they liked it a lot, and they wanted Michael Lindstroth to be like the dashing, like supporting part in it. And then the movie never got made, but that happens a lot in Hollywood. But like, it has its fans. Like people liked it. It's a very weird. I don't know.
We're coming up on an hour, which means that, again, we could probably talk Big Helium Dog for the next 20 hours. We might have to do a part 2. We really might have to. But I want to talk about a release. Like, I'm sure it's a question that people ask nonstop, especially those Kevin Smith fans. Vinny, you were saying that like 35 millimeter still exists somewhere in Jersey, correct?
Yeah, well, the 16 millimeter negative is in storage in New Jersey. During the last Volgathon, I was worried about. I didn't know where the A Better Place negative was because the lab had shut down. So I got into Kevin's storage facility and just started opening boxes, and lo and behold, in one box, I guess when they shut down, they shipped everything back, and in one box was the negative for Big Helium Dog and the negative for A Better Place. So yeah, it's there, and I have tapes too. I've got digital beta cams of the film which have the sound on it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it almost got a release. Matt, how long ago when we shot Whatever Happened to Big Helium Dog? What was that?
2003, wasn't it?
Rock Reflections. It was right when we moved to LA. So I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember. It almost got released, and then the company that was going to release it instead got the rights to the Rolling Stones' entire concert catalog. So right in the middle of us shooting, like we were shooting Easter eggs for the disc.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Do you still have them?
Oh yeah, somewhere. But then they put all their money into the. Look at my dog. They went to that. I think the problem with, and I think the movie will have its day. I think the problem now is that the stuff we were talking about, like blatantly offensive scenes, some of the dialogue, I've talked about it with the thing you got, both you guys, is that I just think it's real easy right now to take stuff out of context and make it seem like it's mean-spirited. I think, and by the way, it's like, would I write a lot of those jokes today? No, because I'm funnier, but I think the movie will have its day. I think right now, certainly it might make people go, wait, the guy that wrote Minions wrote that? Like, wait, huh? Like, it'd be a little confusing.
Would you recut it? I mean, like, if we were able to do a scan, would you take a look at it and be like, well, maybe tinker with it a little bit?
I'd hate to douche over you and me from '97.
Yeah.
Like, if I do it, you know what I mean? I think it'll have its time. Matt and you and I were talking about this after we saw a movie together. I forget what it was, and we were going and like, what lines would be offensive to people, and we just kept saying, "What about this one?" We're like, "Oh, damn!" Like, okay,
yeah.
And I think in context, with the exception of the blatantly offensive scenes, which are called blatantly offensive scenes, so that gives us a little out, but they're funny. But I also think you could remove little things, little stuff, and go like, "This is wrong," and "This is offensive," and that sucks.
They have director's cuts. Why don't you just have the DVD blatantly offensive edition?
The blatantly offensive edition of Big Helium.
I love the idea when there was a moment where we talked about releasing the behind the scenes stuff we shot.
Yeah.
Like 20 years later for a movie that never got.
Yeah. Well, you know what's.
You also have Son of Vance.
Yeah, we never finished it. But we needed to get a close up on Quinn, and Quinn would do it in a second because Vance is his favorite thing he's done. He said, but. You know what feels more interesting to me is that there's two ways to go on it. If Kevin was like, "Look, dude, we're releasing this tomorrow. You don't have a say," And first of all, he wouldn't call me dude, so that was a terrible impression of Kevin. I would ask that we do, at the very least, a commentary track to make fun of what we were doing a little bit.
I'd love
but
to.
At most, shoot something new that would go, this is what we think of what we did, and this is what we're capable of now.
Yeah.
But
I loved it.
Am I over talking? Am I stretching out?
No. I was asking you a question.
What is interesting to me, and I've thought about this a lot, and the only person I've ever brought it up to is my wife, she's a big fan of the movie, which is good, because if she didn't like it, I'd be sad. But I see shows now that do what I thought we were doing. There's one now on FX called Baskets. It hasn't been on for a while, but I watch it, and it's really funny. Borderline offensive, but then it out of nowhere punches you in the gut with its heart. And there's something to trying to do that with the same structure, actors, characters, but done differently now. This is how we do it. And certainly right now I'm under contract and I'll be, to do other stuff, but I won't always be that way. But there's something about going, this is what I thought was funny in 97, and I still think it's funny, but I wouldn't do it all the same. This is what we can do now. Even if it was an animated version, and we did a weird animated, like, Big Helium Dog with the same guys doing the voice stuff. And luckily, I talked to everybody. I still know everybody, I think, that worked on it, with the exception of some of the older people who I don't know if they're with us still. I'd imagine some aren't, which is sad. I don't want to end this on a bad note. My point is that Big Helium Dog will have its day. I don't know if the time is right for the movie now, but the time will be right for the movie and the world and everybody that worked on it to come together soon.
Christian said in the background, Big Helium Dog with puppets.
I mean, you're talking to the guy that loves the Muppets. I do it in 2 seconds. Yes, absolutely.
Big Helium Dog.
Yeah, it's just was that a weird answer? I don't know.
I mean,
no, not at all.
The thing is that it can happen at any time that you're ready for it to happen, because, like I said, the negative is there, the sound is here, and it can happen.
Yeah.
We're out of time. So, Matt, Vinny, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
Again, maybe we need a part 2, maybe
Anytime
going down the line.
We're all going to be in our houses, so whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
What we are doing next is going to be A Better Place. Brian's coming back with Vinny, and we're going to talk that fantastic film. So fans of the podcast will be able to check that out. Hopefully soon we'll hammer that out. And Matt, if you're up for a Big Helium Dog Part 2, I'd love to have you back as well.
Let's do it, man.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you to Ming, wherever you are out there. And everyone, thank you so much. Have a great night.
Bye, guys. I love you.
Wash your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Checking out our Big Helium Dog podcast. Please hit that subscribe button. Be sure to check out our Clerks podcast featuring Ernie O'Donnell, Scott Chiaffo, Marilyn Gigliotti, and Brian O'Halloran.
Wow, that guy's stupid.